Yes, that's a problem. No crystals are allowed. It's all New Age. It's all Reiki energy. You know, in the Old Testament, the Lord said, you're not to have their idols. You're to break them up, burn them in the fire, chop them into pieces, break down their altars. No, we don't have any altars to break down around here. Well, you do if you go up on top of mountains these days. They're building altars in those little rock cairns that they're building. But that didn't used to be a thing. That's a relatively modern phenomenon. But that was the command of the Lord. What could we learn from that? That we should make no partnership with evil, and we should make no partnership with foreign gods. So you're not allowed to be a Hindu Christian. I mean, you could be somebody who was a Hindu who becomes a Christian, but you can't practice Hinduism and Christianity without getting yourself into serious complications spiritually. And you will end up demonized. And I could give many other examples of that, but that's one that's so obvious and so prominent in our culture that it doesn't really need a lot of additional explanation. Most of these Eastern thought systems, yoga and acupuncture, are both in this camp, even though acupuncture is Chinese and yoga is Indian, so they're not even out of the same culture. But most of those Eastern thought systems rely on something that the Chinese call the power of the ki. And the way you spell that is Qi. And so you might remember from the Star Wars movies that Obi-Wan Kenobi's early mentor was a man named Qui-Gon Jinn. Well, Qigong is referring to the power of the ki. And of course, the whole Jedi mind trick and all the things they do, much of that is that very Eastern power and energy field. And Jinn is the word for genie. So Qigong Jinn means, it's kind of a mixed word. It's got some Arabic in it, and it's got some Chinese in it. But if you strip all that out and reduce it to kind of conversational English, what it's saying is the energy field demon. That was the name of Obi-Wan's mentor. This is all true. I'm not making this up, and this isn't urban legend. And so for people that are getting involved in acupuncture, acupressure, shiatsu, reflexology, any of that sort of thing, somehow the power of the ki is involved. And people get involved in that, they're almost certainly going to end up demonized. And they're usually going to end up with worse conditions over time. Whatever it is they're trying to fix, their sciatica, their sore neck, whatever, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And everybody in America is doing this. Everybody's going after it. And it's like, well, my pastor has a chiro, or every Christian I know has a chiro, so it must be okay, right? Well, here's what Isaiah had to say about that. It was Jeremiah. As many as are your towns, so are your gods, O Israel. Do I need to elaborate on that, or is the obvious implication clear? Every town in Israel had its own God in addition to Yahweh. That's what Jeremiah said. And Isaiah said a little bit earlier, but with the same idea, and so you have bowed down to all the gods of the nations around you under every spreading tree. And Hosea, who was a contemporary of Isaiah, he said, you have offered yourself to foreign gods as a woman does to a man. Well, that's pretty graphic, but that's what Hosea had to say about that. That is the American church right now. And if they might be into meditation, they might be into Reiki, they might be into yoga, but whatever it is they're into, they might be into chiropractic. And I made a comment, I think it was yesterday, about chiropractic comes out of spiritualism and necromancy. And Donald David Palmer had a demon appear to him in a seance and give him the keys to chiropractic. And virtually every Christian I know is like, well, I have my chiro, and it's okay, right? And if you tell them you probably shouldn't be using chiropractic, they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? How about getting healed using divine healing? Real divine healing. I mean, this is just the world we live in. And but it shows you, even in conservative Fresno County, in a town like Fresno, California, where there's still some vestige of Christianity left, and there's still some vestige of church life. You couldn't even have this conversation in Los Angeles County. But it shows you how pervasive the syncretism of our day has become.